From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Succoth, striving for perfection. We look at the holiday of Succoth. We have a very strange contrast between the lulav and the sukkah. When it comes to the lulav, it seems that perfection is demanded. When it comes to the sukkah, it seems that almost anything goes. I'd like to examine the relationship between these two polar opposites. What do we mean that the lulav demands perfection? Well, absolutely. If you look at religious Jews looking carefully at their lulav, the top has to be exactly perfect. If it's not straight, if it's not together, if the very tip is slightly separated, it could be an invalidating factor, and it could be pasul, it could be invalid. The etrog, of course, you don't want to have even the slightest blemish. It's just a little black dot. No black dots allowed. No pimples, no acne, no black holes. There has to be perfection when it comes to that etrog, at least in the top half. The hadassim, the aravot, each one has to be exactly the way it is. Well, what if the leaf of the aravos is a little bit jagged? No, not jagged. It should be straight. If it's curved a little bit, no, that's the wrong species. It has to be straight. It has to be long. There are all kinds of requirements when it comes to the lulav, the etrog, hadassim, and aravos, and the mishnayos, and the Gemara outline what all these various requirements are. The perfect lulav and the perfect etrog. It says, ulakach tem, you should take, and the rabbis interpret it's two words. Not that you should take, but ulakach tam, and you should take something perfect. When it comes to Sukkot, we speak of something perfect. Pesach is Avraham, Yitzchak is Shavuot, and Sukkot is Yaakov. Yaakov ish tam, a man of simplicity, or perhaps of perfection. Comes to Sukkot, it seems when it comes to lulav and etrog, we're very much interested in perfection. But then we're introduced to a sukkah. Let me introduce you to my sukkah. Well, the sukkah has a half wall. You see, it doesn't have a whole wall because you figure, well, if it goes up about 42 inches, then it's as if it goes all the way to the top. Oh, by the way, it doesn't reach the floor, but it's okay because it's about 3 hen's breadths, less than 3 hen's breadths from the floor, so it's as if it reaches the floor. Oh, by the way, there's a roof hanging over part of the sukkah, but it's okay, I won't sit under that part. But beyond that, it's still kosher. And by the way, the roof consists of chaff, psoles, goren, v'yekav, the leftover stuff. You can throw anything on there. You can throw the leftover harvest. You could throw all the hay up there. It really doesn't matter what you throw up there. As long as it's grew from the ground and it's cut off, you can throw it up there. And you can still see some stars. It's not 100%, just tzilasa meruba mechamas. It's mostly covered. I know that it leaks, the rain gets in, but it's okay. That's my sukkah. And by the way, it doesn't really have 4 walls either. It has like 2 walls, and then there's like a little protrusion from there, and that's about it. It doesn't really have any completeness. So here's a holiday that has a lulav, that ulkach tem, the idea of tam, of perfection. And then let me introduce you to my sukkah. My sukkah is a picture of incompleteness. So how do we understand the contrast between these two aspects of the holiday? They are, after all, the 2 rituals of Sukkot, and yet they're so much in contrast. We have to remember that this contrast is not only between the lulav and the sukkah, but also within the species of the lulav and etrog. The etrog is so amazing. It is beautiful. It's beautiful to look at. It's beautiful to smell. It has an interesting taste. You can make things out of it. It's a citrus type of fruit. But the arava, the willow, you can't eat it. You can't drink it. You can't. It's not really so special to look at. It's kind of droopy, actually. So it really lacks any fragrance. It's not like the hadassim you could smell. It's a beautiful smell. And so the contrast within the lulav and etrog is very stark. And the rabbis say the etrog represents the tzaddik, the great righteous person, and the arava represents, the plain Jew. He's just a Jew. He doesn't have Torah, not very learned, doesn't do that many mitzvahs, but he's a Jew. In order to understand this contrast, we need to realize that Succoth is right after Yom Kippur. We can't lose that point. Succoth is right after Yom Kippur. What do we do as we finish off Yom Kippur? Well, we start Yom Kippur with the morning reading. We read about entering the Holy of Holies. Talk about perfection. The high priest has to enter the Holy of Holies. He has to be cleansed of all his sins, the Kohanim sins, the priestly sins. He has to be cleansed of the sins of all of Israel. And then he has this interaction where he goes in and out of the Holy of Holies. But in the afternoon, we read not of a man trying to reach communion with God, but in the afternoon we say, by the way, no incest. It's not allowed. Well, I'm in the Holy of Holies. What do you think I'm doing? By the way, there are all kinds of forbidden marital relations. Me? Why do you accuse me of it? Why are we reading this? On Yom Kippur, on the holiest day, we're wearing white. We're perfect. The rabbis understood very well. We can go very quickly from being very, very holy to be very, very, very wild and crazy. And therefore they said, toward the waning hours of Yom Kippur, they said, no, read about how low a man can sink. So Yom Kippur is about how high we can go, and it reminds you how low you can sink as well. So as we come out of Yom Kippur, that's what we're doing, we're recovering from Yom Kippur. We go into Sukkot. Believe that the Sukkot, God, the Torah sends us two messages. On the one hand, it says, you are v'tachzareu ma'am Elokim. You're just a bit less than an angel, as it says in the Psalms. You could be standing there with white, with your feet together. You could be like an angel. You could meet God in the Holy of Holies. So you know what? Strive for perfection. Go for it. Try to be like an etrog. Try to be perfect. On the other hand, we have to be realistic. We strive too far, it could be dangerous. They say that Jacob was shown the ladder and he said, wow, there's a ladder to heaven. I'll just jump to the top of it. And the Kabbalists say, no, you don't jump to the top. You have to go level after level. We're not going to become angels tomorrow. We need to work and strive. So which one is it? Does Sukkot let us off the hook and say, well, as long as it doesn't reach the ceiling, doesn't reach the floor, you don't have real walls, you're not so perfect, you're like an Arab, it's good enough. Is that what Sukkot is all about? That, Yom Kippur we strive, but no, it's also about an esrog, being perfect. We want to strive for perfection, but we want to remember that we're very human and that Ruin Kol Yisrael Leisha B'Sukkah Achaz, we can get into that sukkah. We can be in just a plain sukkah. We have to be able to come back down to earth and realize that we may not reach all of our goals, and the idea of being able to strive while not crashing, to strive for the greatest and great perfection while not giving up completely. That's the message of Sukkot. So you say, well, if I realize that I may be so imperfect, what's the point in striving? I'm not going to be in the Holy of Holies all year. And it's not going to be the way it works. The idea is, my teacher, Rabbi Mital, of blessed memory, said, it's good to have the image of Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, the idea of perfection espoused by the Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, who thought that the tanur, the oven must be perfect in order to be a real oven. That you need to have that image of what perfection is. The image of the lulav, the image of the etrog. And then to remember that we ultimately, we're not trying to be any sign of a super Jew. We're trying to be just a simple Jew to basically learn Torah, do the mitzvahs, do the best we can, and remember how human we really are. We keep this balance, striving for the best, accepting where we are, and trying to go somewhere in between and strive to go a little bit from that sukkah to the lulav. Hopefully we'll find that balance. Be able to find holiness and not get so carried away that, God forbid, we crash into the abyss of immorality. Thank you for joining us here for the Anshe Sephardi Beth El congregation here in Memphis, Tennessee, for our 10 Minutes of Torah. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz for making today's presentation possible. And feel free to join us other weeks, past weeks, to learn more about the holidays and the various Parshiyot HaShavua. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.